Hi. In this interview, Michael and Audree Sahota are talking about how they keep inspiring each other. Two, how anger has sabotaged and damaged both of them earlier in their life. And three, why self love is important for all of us. Have fun watching. I'm Yves Hanul from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you.
Yes, and good to be here. That is, well, I'll bring immediately something up that it might be interesting for people. The here for me is in Belgium, somewhere here. And the here for you people, if I'm correct, and this is an experiment, what is Google is going
So
to help
cool.
out. It should show you more or less where
Wow.
you are.
Yep.
Not in the exact location, but because of course we don't want to help stalkers to find you, but it's somewhere there.
It's okay. We're leaving here tomorrow, so it's fine.
We are true nomads right now.
And the interesting part about that is that so this is thanks to technology that we can show this, and let's bring you back again on screen, or let's bring both of us back. For me, this is in Belgium at 7 o'clock in the evening. What time is it on your side?
It's 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock? Let's go with 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock in the
It's,
afternoon.
yeah, it's a few minutes after, of course, but that's yeah. So that's I'm bringing this up because I think it's interesting for everybody to know. This is how we're recording. This is how we're working these days, and this is how distributed we are. We could have recorded it at when was it last time that your people were in Belgium? That's like 2 years ago or something like that, when you were actually something like that. But before I've been already talking, but maybe let's introduce yourself a little bit. Who are you? Let's bring that up. That might be interesting for people.
My daughter used to do that to adults when they came to the house when she was 3. She'd be like, "Who are you?" They would go, I'm your Aunt Marcia. And she's like, "Who are you?" And they would be like, "Ah." So who are you?
Yeah.
Michael Sahota.
Okay. Well, what is identity anyway? I'm going to go with the conventional answer. I can go with the unconventional answer. Maybe I'll start there. I'm a boundless time being that has infinite energy and power, and I'm just choosing to constrain myself to this physical incarnation for the enjoyment of experiencing what it feels like to be limited. That'd be like kind of the unusual definition of who I am. I'll go with the more traditional one, which is, I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and my background's in engineering and artificial intelligence researcher and technology and building projects and learning about something called agile, and then discovering that agile is actually a little bit complex to get at work in organizations from a team perspective, from a management perspective, and eventually working as a trainer and consultant, discovering that it's actually impossible and doesn't make sense as a question to how to get agile working because it's not about agile. And so then, I really spent the last 10 years in this world of culture and leadership, understanding what agile is pointing to that agile cannot actually achieve, but it's actually pointing to something. And how do we actually realize that, and what does that mean? And then we could use terms like a shift in leadership consciousness, business agility, teal organizations, exponential organizations, of what is the pathway for human beings to evolve ourselves, and through that create more evolved workplaces that are filled with joy and high performance and great products and so on. So that'd be me in a nutshell.
Wow, that's a lot for you kind of condensed like the 10-15 years that we know each other in just a few minutes. So thank you, Michael. Audree.
So I'm Audree Tara. Hi. I do not come from a technology background. I come from a people background. And so I started out as a massage therapist, wanting to pay my way through med school so I could be a medical illustrator. That's how I started. And I loved anatomy and physiology. I love the body. I was trained to work alongside doctors. Sports medicine was becoming big at the time. And so I got into the health and wellness industry. Raw foods, colon hydrotherapy, detoxing, some sports medicine, personal training. And what I started to find was that that's a longer story. Weird things happened to me when I was touching people and I was working with people, and I could really read people, like what was deeply going on with them. And it led me on a very strange and unusual journey to be formally trained as an energetic healer. So I have 8 years of formal training. I was trained to work on a medical team doing that work, and I did that in Chicago. And what I was finding was, as successful as I was with healing people, when they did get healed, I would have to then coach them back into a lifestyle that was conducive for health and wellness. So a lot of people went major life transitions and transformations. And then I started to realize that there was something deeper going on with the healing work that I was not involved with. Like, people were healing, but I wasn't doing anything, and I really wanted to know what was going on. What I think was fascinating about my journey was that every school that I went to was heal yourself first, so you can be a transmission of this pure vibrational energy that can heal other people. And so my journey has always been about self-improvement and coming from very deep rooted subconscious behavior patterns. And my journey eventually led me to India, where I did the most profound work that I feel is really relative in the work that we do today. And that's when I met Michael, and I said, hey, I had this very strange idea. The fastest way to shift the consciousness of humanity was to go into the workplace and change the workplace. I thought this was
now, there's a crazy idea.
I thought this was like new, because I mentioned it to people in my industry, and they're like, that will never happen. That will never happen. We'll never get organizations. They're so traditional in their style of management that we'll never get them to think any differently, or treat people better, or create processes and structures that help uplift people and, get their innovation and their creativity and their brilliance flowing at work. And so then when I met Michael, I said, hey, I have this crazy idea. And he kind of was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And didn't say too much. And I was like, oh, he probably thinks I'm a weirdo too. And we fell in love. And then he told me about this agile thing, and I didn't really get it until I went to one of his earlier certified agile leadership trainings. And then I was just looking around the room after 2 days. I felt like I was sitting in Michael's brain. And at the same time, I realized we had the same life purpose. And whatever this agile thing is, I believe that it is the template that is kind of anchoring onto the planet in a way that we can actually change the way people behave, the way they think. Not, the mindset, but it's just really, we're talking about shifting our behaviors and living in these, I call a higher state of consciousness, which is collaboration, peace, harmony, wellness, all these different, you can call it love, like your shirt says. But yes. Really, it's I believe it's the beginning, the anchor of a new way of being on the planet with each other for humanity. So that's why I always say Agile's saving the planet, saving humanity. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
This is we already kind of jumped into a lot of different things, I think, which is wonderful. Thank you very much. And let's the way I asked it, of course, who are you, brings me almost immediately to that deeper question. What is something that people usually don't know about you and that has influenced you? I think both of you've shared already things that has influenced you. Is there anything else that you want to add to these stories?
Yeah, I'll do like a little soundbite of a kind of a wake up moment that I had, that other people may have had, that some people may have waiting for them still to come. And I was reading Brene Brown's first book, which I still think is her best. And there was one quote in it which said, "You can only be kind to others to the extent that you can be kind to yourself." And as the father of 3 children, I knew I had this inner critic going, rah, 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 and I go, wait a second. If that's how I am on the inside to me, that's actually, which is totally unkind, then I'm totally actually unkind as a parent, as a collaborator, as a leader, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a wake up moment in my life to say, wait a second, the way I'm showing up right now as a human being on planet Earth is not acceptable to me. I want to show up differently. I want to show up like a different kind of human being. And that sparked a 2-year, where I made a game, James McGonigal's For Changing the World, How Games Can Change the World. I made a 2-year epic quest where my epic quest goal was for self-kindness. And so I ran experiment after experiment, because there's no book on this, of how do I move the needle from, inner critic to self-kindness. And I made an incredible shift over 2 years. And then now my deeper realization is, we can never actually fully attain that until we reach enlightenment, because it's actually a fundamental construct of the ego. So it's like really this endless opportunity to evolve to greater and greater levels of self-kindness, which I continue to be on today. Like it has, I said a 2-year thing, but it's never ended. And that's really, I think, what it comes down to because we can be kind to ourselves, we can actually fully love ourselves, which is kind of a rare thing on planet Earth. Then we can hold that space for others. So that what I say is a kind of a really one thing a lot of people do not know about me.
That's a wonderful story, and it brings actually a memory something to me that I want to share. That today, just less than an hour ago, somebody shared with me a quote that says, or a question that was like, when you ask people to ask them, okay, what are the people that you like or things you like? I think it was people. How long is the list before you actually start listing yourself in it? And that's basically the kind of thing that you're talking about. Do you mention yourself when you talk about people that you like or that you love? It's that kind of thing. How quick do we think about that? And that quote reminded me of a challenge that I got from a friend when I was, I think, 15 or 16. I just got a very big mirror into my room, and a friend of mine challenged me, why don't you look into that mirror every day and say to yourself, I love you, or something like that. I don't know the exact phrase. And at first I was like, yeah, you know how 16-year-olds are like, how crazy are you? But I took that challenge. I didn't do it every day because it felt way too weird, but I just did it a few times, and I didn't understand it at the time. But like you say, Michael, it's a very powerful thing to actually think about. How kind can I be to myself, and how kind can I be to tell to myself I love myself, which is a very strange thing. I have no idea how much influence it did me, but it's definitely something that is important for us to love ourselves. Audrey, is there anything that you want to share?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I wrote a children's book in 1999 that ended up being a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it is all about self-love and how we look outside of ourselves in relationship, and we give and we give and we give because we want to be loved, and we forget that we have to love ourselves first. And I think the thing that a lot of people don't know about me is that I was angry my whole entire life. Like, my brother-in-law used to call me Run with Fists, and I had and I had a chip on my shoulder. I blamed everybody else. I wrote about it a little bit in Emotional Science, our book, but I really thought my family didn't like me. And when I discovered that I didn't like them, that was a flip. That was like, oh my God, wait a minute. I think it's them, but it's me. And when I really I discovered that probably later on in life, like 2013. And when I did discover that, and I had this really deep awakening experience, everything changed, and it changed almost effortlessly. And, it's like now I have this beautiful relationship with my parents and my sisters, and I still get annoyed and things like that. But things have really changed because I started to take responsibility for my life in a way where I no longer look at, oh, it's other people, it's, it's the government, or it's my boss, or it's, the life that's going on. I really say, okay, wait, how am I creating this? Where am I blocked? Where am I frustrated or angry? And that was a life changer for me.
I can imagine, because like you say, when you look at it, that things happen and that it's all the world's is that problems, well, there's not much you can do about it. And if you look at yourself, you take responsibility. There might still be things wrong, like you say, you're still annoyed sometimes, but annoyed is something different than being really angry, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, and my anger caused so much sabotage and damage. I left home when I was 14. Like, you know how when you're a teenager and you're like angry,
oh yeah,
upset, and it's everybody else's fault? Well, I actually left. Like, how, like, why, it's like, and that created more problems. And it was, and, I thank God I was safe, and I was smart, and, I could have gone all kinds of wrong, but, my poor parents were just like watching this train wreck happening, and there was nothing that they can do about it. And so having that awareness too, it's like our anger and frustration and blame causes so much damage and sabotages our own success. And it's really what drives me today, is to try to help people understand that, our success depends on our own inner state and how we are thinking and believing and behaving. Yeah.
That's really powerful indeed. And it's well, it's almost impossible to imagine an angry Audree. I mean, we haven't met multiple times, but well, I think 3 or 4 times that we met in person. But,
you don't want to meet angry Audree. You do not.
I get angry at him now.
Creates great growth opportunities if you ever do.
No,
okay. I mean, but I think you were joking about it, Michael, but I think there is a difference between somebody who's angry at a certain situation and a person who's continuously angry and living an angry life. I think there is a big difference there. And I cannot imagine you, Audree, as someone who is constantly angry, because well, how I know you. And again, like Michael says, I only know the good parts, maybe at multiple parts, but yeah, it's a different kind of life. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to be in pain and suffering anymore, and so I had to change. Like, do that.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like the story of our lives. Is neither of us are who we were before, in very deep and profound ways. We're kind of like our better version of ourselves in such profound ways. We were, when we met each other, committed to our own growth, our own evolution, and that's never stopped. And it's kind of like this really what we're bringing to the world is living the talk of how do we show up as our best version of ourselves in a deep, profound way, not in terms of a shallow way that's often talked about.
That's I tried to remember earlier today when we first met, Michael. I know that I showed up in Canada to do a workshop together with you based on, I think, Gino introduced ourselves and that we did a workshop then. And if I look back at the Michael I met then and the multiple times that I met you, there's like multiple Michaels that I've met over time, and it's. Yeah, it's interesting to see that growth path that you've been to. It's not that I could say, oh, that Michael was annoying. No, there is not something that worried me at that time, because I loved working. But it's always a different Michael every time I meet you. So, and that for me, it's an inspiration as well. It's always like, okay, there is more that we can keep growing. In a sense, you're a nice inspiration, at least for me. And I think for a few other people that I know as well.
I've never. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Audrey. You wanted to add something.
I was just about to say, like, the inspiration. I've never seen anybody so passionately committed to his own growth work. And that, I think that's what we're seeing. This evolution of Michael Sahota has been just this really deep, penetrating, like peeling off the layers. and really getting to the essence of who he is.
Yeah, it kind of come back to where we started, is that everyone is actually this unlimited, beautiful human being. And we just have layers and layers of crap that we don't even know that are there, that are blocking the brilliance, the light of who we are from shining through. And there's a choice everyone has, is do I want to take the time and peel back the layers and let the light shine out and have the peace and the connection with my authentic self? Or I just want to kind of coast through life. And that's, that's our invitation to the world, really.
Yeah, and it's not. Well, what I would try to say is it's not just your invitation. You also live the life, and everybody who knows you sees both of you. And I think, well, I Audrey, I don't know you for that long, so I can only speak about the Michael that I know so many years ago. But I think you both of you, it's very visible how you inspire each other in both directions. Like I said, I can only see the Michael growing, but I assume it's on the other side as well. So thank you for sharing this. And also the fact that when we talk every time, I see both of you in all these things. So that's very nice. I want to move to that next question. And and again, yeah, it's showing up. So if you had not, and this is probably more to Michael than to Audrey, because it's talking about IT, of course, but if you had not been to an IT when you originally started, what would have become of you?
Well, I was actually designated to be a teacher and work in academics and do research. I was only very accidentally in IT. Like I've got published papers in artificial intelligence. I did half a PhD program until I realized that in order to complete it, I need to do very theoretical things. And my original nature is very applied. Like I want to see results in the real world. Otherwise, for me, it's meaningless, right? And a lot of academics is a lot of like theory for theory's sake alone, not for actual practical benefits. And there were other things and other poor life choices and so on that went on around that time. But
mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made, to quote my son. But the end of it, that's actually what I'm doing now. Like right now, I'm a teacher. I distill the essence of things and help people understand things in a much more rapid way than possible. And like this, also the scientist to puzzle things out, to pull out the essence, the most simplified version of it. That's why people who like read our books or come to our trainings have such mind-blowing experiences, because they've gotten it like 90% right. They got 90% of the information, but they're missing that last 10%. And that's really what my superpower is, that last 10% that unlocks everything. So.
And so it's interesting that you say I was destined to become a teacher, then you came into IT and you ended up at this moment, who knows where you end up later, but you end up again being a teacher at this moment. And it's interesting. Audrey, are there any, let's ignore the IT part. Are there any things that were destined for you to be different than how you started out your career?
Well, I think my career is pretty fascinating. And I wouldn't be
careers,
and I wouldn't be doing anything different. Like I think I've been certified and I have experience doing a lot of things, but it's always about people, and it's about liberating them from pain and suffering, and they're either physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. So I could only say that right now there's a little bit of my work in the world that's kind of stopped, only because I am so passionate about what we're doing right now. We even talked about this yesterday, because I was just saying, I've been working on I have some work out in the world called evolutionary energetics, and it's about, high vibrational frequency and chakras and self-healing. And we've been bringing it into our work, but I want to bring it out in a bigger way. And I've been kind of on hold waiting as we bring this work out together in the world. So, there was a part of me that's like, am I doing the right thing right now? And it's like, I can't imagine me doing anything else. Like, I feel it's so important. I'm so passionate about what we're doing. And it's just, there's so many things to do. And it's just, bring this out, bring that out. We have this plan that's going on, and it's coming to fruition. So it's quite incredible. And I think when we put a limit on how we're going to do things, You know, we think we're going over here, but why are we going over here? We want to go over here, but everything, if you just flow with whatever's presented to you right now, there's a reason for it. And I couldn't imagine this journey being any different. And I'm profoundly surprised by it. So it's coming though. Everything's going to happen.
That's definitely something I recognize when we're doing this conversation with lots of people, that most people say, yeah, there is a reason why some of these things happen. But for me, the reason to ask this question is also to understand a little bit of where people are coming from. Now, both of you have already shared a lot of that in that introduction, of course. But it's nice to see how, I would say, both of you came from a completely different world and found out and now are creating this new thing together. Yeah, it's wonderful to see how, yeah, from the agile world, or from yeah, I don't know even how to call your world, because Audree, you did a lot of things that are in kind of healthcare, but not really healthcare. So it's kind of hard to call that really world. But how that really unites in making the world a better place. That's the best way how I can put it these days. That's wonderful. And how you inspire a lot of people, because your book got recommended. Well, there's lots of people who talk about your book that yeah, just recently, last week, I had a few people talking about it, how much influenced them. So it's nice to see that happen.
That's really amazing.
Cool. Thanks for the feedback. We don't always hear that. So.
Well, yeah, I don't have enough chance to tell you, so that's why I wanted to say that. I wanted to go to that next question. What is the biggest challenge, and why is it a good thing for both of you, I think? Is there a common challenge? Well, a challenge that you want to share, of course.
Mm-hmm. I can go first. So my biggest challenge is getting out of my own way. Period.
That's mine too.
Great minds think alike. Anyway, that's it. That's it. I am the limit. So there's life. Life is flowing in a certain direction. Mm-hmm. Right? There's a certain setup. We're in a complex system. There's life's going a certain way. My job is just for me to get my conditioning out of the way and just flow with life, and everything will be taken care of. So that's my biggest obstacle, is in me. And so what that means very practically is when some situation arises, looking at, well, is this my conditioning talking, or am I flowing through life? And really just being really very aware, moment to moment. What am I choosing? What am I creating? Is it for my past and my conditioning, or is it because this is what life is, the door life is opening, and responding to something that's a healthy, positive direction to flow in? So that's how I describe it.
And how do you, are there any things that you use to feel that difference? Because I can imagine it's very difficult sometimes to know the difference.
Yeah, so there are many, many different layers of technology of consciousness, what we call it, the work that we do, to help understand that. And some of it's not stuff we've created, it's created by other people. Probably the most guidance I can give to you or anyone listening is just listen to your heart or listen to your gut. That's it. Like, if you're feeling open, excited, alive with something, flow with it. If it's feeling crunchy, tight, that's a time to look at that's the block in your system. Because life is just beautiful and amazing at all moments. It's only our conditioning that causes us to clench up and tight and constrain ourselves. So your body will tell you, you need to slow down, you need to breathe, and you need to listen to your body. That's kind of like the very basic protocol, whether you call it mindfulness or whatever, but it's really be here now.
Mm-hmm. I recognize that in a lot of cases when I look at different choices in life that I took a decision, if I look back and I thought it was the wrong decision, that there was some kind of message I got from my body that told me in a way, oh, there is something strange, and I didn't listen. So yeah, just the most crazy idea. There is still a person that owes me a lot of money. Well, I knew right from the very first conversation I had with that person that something was wrong, and I didn't listen to it. And so for me, it feels like, okay, that's money I paid for not listening to myself in a sense. And it was an expensive lesson, but I've learned it because it helped me, like you say, when you feel something similar in your body, like, okay, and it at sometimes it feels kind of fluffy what you're saying, but at the same time I recognize it. This is no, this is
It's
real.
not fluffy. It's not fluffy at all. It's very concrete. It's listen to your heart and your gut. They are smarter than your brain. The thoughts that you had are based on your conditioning. Listen to what's in your heart, what's in your gut. And that's not going to be perfect either. And that's why we wrote a whole book on emotional science, because there's other layers of interference going on, but it's the closest that you can get without any training to orienting to what's healthiest for you in your life.
So my favorite thing is in the word believe, right in the middle, it says lie. And so what we believe a lot of times is a lie. Almost all the time. So really,
Another conversation.
I know, but I don't know why I'm going here, but it's just really important that our expectations or our preconceived notions and assumptions are actually the things that are creating the blocks for us. So what we try to do is, okay, for example, in my relationship with Michael has been very kind of like, it was a stretch goal for him to go for a walk and not have any kind of, okay, we're going to walk from this time to this time. We're going to go from here to here, and we're not going to stop, and so when I first met him, I was like, no, like the most amazing things happen when you allow yourself to go on a walk with no assumptions, no agenda, nothing going on. And then when we did that, it was like proof was in the pudding. Like, that's that's when things can actually really happen and your life can open up. So I think it's just that the things that we believe, the assumptions that we have, the preconceived notions or perceptions that we have really limit us.
So going to a walk and not having a goal, that's what you're saying. So
yeah.
Well, so it's not about not having a goal. It's about having a goal but not being attached to it, and being open to the flow of life, or serendipity, or unknown events, or in Agile we call it respond to change over following a plan. People do not actually know how to do that in their own personal life, which means they're not really agile. I mean, a lot of people say they're agile, but actually do not live that aspect of the manifesto in their personal lives, and it's frightening for them. So
I find it very interesting because I definitely have that part that you talk about, the walk. I mean, if I don't know where we're going, that's definitely something I still have trouble with. But on the other hand, I have no problem with the serendipity and then changing the plan. So I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet where you are already, Michael. But there's definitely something that I recognize there. So it's very interesting. I was very surprised that you say about belief that in the middle there is a lie, because I felt there is also my name in the middle of belief. So that's why I was thinking you were in that direction. Okay. Is there anything you wanted to add, Audrey, about that question?
Oh, also the word yes is in your name. So there you go.
Okay, that's even better. Thank you. I wanted to go to that next question, what drives you? Because I think drive is an interesting concept to think about. And I think especially Michael, when I met you, and I think you're still a very driven person, but I think the drive has changed a lot over the years. Am I correct there?
Yeah, drive is part of what we call the technology of red list, where we try to coerce people into doing what we want. So I'm not going to answer that question, because I'm not trying to drive change or make anyone do anything or demand people. Instead, I'll say what inspires me, what brings me alive, what lights me up. And I'll tell a story about this. There was one Sunday, there was nothing going on. Audrey was somewhere else. I don't know where she was. So I had the whole day, nothing was scheduled. And I just worked on our new training. And I had the best day ever. So that is really what I'm about. It's about, there's so much, if this is how much I have in my field of awareness that can help people, this is about how much we've been able to share with the world in all of our books and all of our trainings. Maybe it's even smaller. Like it's just a tiny speck. So like there's this huge, extraordinary amount of information that can help human beings with their personal evolution, organizations with their evolution. And like I'm a bottleneck in getting this out to the world. And it's like I have this I can feel it right now, this like this powerful, extraordinarily powerful blast of energy that I'm like trying to manifest into the world. And that's what lights me up. And so when there's stuff that gets in the way of that flow of energy, that's where I start to get like this kind of sometimes a bit crunchiness, and I got to work through it and just flow with what's happening around me. But that's what's really, I don't know if you can feel this right now. It's like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
And yeah,
really intense. That's this work that I'm being called to bring out to the world. It's not me. It's I'm being called, and I'm in service of bringing the specific technology out to the world. That's what lights me up.
and I like how you rephrased it, because indeed, when I ask the question, what drives you, it's really more like what inspires you and what gives you energy. You really make me think about changing the question, like, should I change it for the future interviews? I don't know, but that's the exactly thing that I'm looking for, indeed, because that's why I say I know you as a driven or an inspired person. There is never a dull moment when we're with you, because you have so much ideas and energy, indeed, to share with the rest of the world. That always is there. So that's very inspirational. Is there? How is that different for you, Audrey? Let's look at that one.
So
I assume there is a part of it that's the same, but what's different there?
It's really interesting because we talk about this in our training, and so as a woman, you know, there's a we can do a lot of things. Like we take care of the kids, we have careers, we're working on ourselves, and so we're driven, and it's like we're having to. It's almost like it feels to me like I'm having to show up in this driven sort of a way that goes against the very nature of my being. And so I have a lot of passion for the work that we do, but when I go into a place of where I'm driving myself, or I'm working on what I want to accomplish, I have to be very, very careful that I start to get like, it's almost like a feeling in my body. Like I'm like, kind of like what Michael said, crunchy, and like there's something that is like immediate, or there's a sense of urgency, and I really want to take the time to slow down, to just soften into, okay, I have this inspiration, I'm inspired, I have a lot of passion. And at the same time, if I get into this place of like driving or making myself go, or having to accomplish or having to prove myself in a way that is against my nature, it actually conflicts with what I'm trying to achieve. So there's a constant battle going on inside me where I have to remind myself that I am very different in my approach and how I am as a human being. And that's okay. Like, it's okay. I'm still going to be able to complete my goals. I'm still going to be able to achieve my desires, or my passion and inspiration for the work that we're doing in the world will happen. But I just need to remind myself that I don't have to rush. There is no urgency, that slowing down is okay. Yeah.
And that brings the balance, I think, also in what both of you are doing, because I feel, I think there is a difference there, which is, which for me is interesting. And how does that work out for the both of you, and how you work together or collaborate together?
Sometimes it's crazy making. Yeah, like, because he's super intense, and so then I'm like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough, and but we are so committed to the work and who we are and showing up for each other and holding space for each other that, you know, it's safe enough for me to say, hey, I'm starting to feel this way. He already knows what's going on with me, but if I can say it, he can say, relax and just breathe. Everything's okay. And it's nice to have that, a partner that can help hold you in the space or the truth of your nature, so you can actually do what you're meant to do, but do it from a place of like what feels natural for you. So yeah, I think that it's a challenge, and at the same time it's kind of a blessing.
I like the way you express it also, because you say Michael already knows, but Michael, when you notice, what I'm hearing is that you noticed it before, but is there anything that you do specifically to let Audree discover it herself? Because you could rescue her or say something, but I have the feeling it wouldn't help. Is this a correct feeling, or how does that work for both of you?
Yeah.
If you want to share it.
That's a great question. So this applies to everyone, right? When we're theory X, we don't want help.
Mm-hmm.
When we're theory Y, we always want help. My aunt, I work my best to show theory Y no matter what. I always want help. So I've got an open invitation to everyone around me to let me know when I'm not showing up as my best self. So I'm 100% yes. This is what Audree was talking about earlier. It's frightening for most people to even begin to think about that. Because it's just a high level of self-responsibility. It's almost beyond humanly possible. So with Audree, she's a different person. She's got different wiring. So for me, it's understanding the nuances of what is the right approach in this moment. So there's no standard cookie cutter solution. What is the right approach in this moment that will help her the most? Sometimes it's saying something. Sometimes it's saying absolutely nothing. Sometimes it's just being present and holding my heart open and just blasting love at her, and then that'll change everything.
Sometimes it annoys me.
Yeah, sometimes, but and sometimes it's like I'm getting frustrated with her, and I got to work through my own stuff to become present. So it's really just about being present to the moment, and when I'm calm and stable, then I can look at her and say, hey, why don't we just take a moment, just breathe right now.
Yeah, I like that you share that, because it's what a lot of people have to go through when working together. Indeed, you have to have the trust and the love that both of you have for each other, and that's not always easy. And of course, it would be a lot easier if it's always the same. Like what you say, Michael, Audree, sometimes it's different in different situations. And then you have to feel what is the right thing to know, which is, of course, not easy. And I assume, Audree, when you don't know it yourself, it's kind of hard for Michael to know what's the best for you at that time.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful how you can talk both about it, and that for me it shows that you have worked a lot both on yourself as a duo or the couple to work on this. That's wonderful that you can share this.
It's really important to have that commitment to each other. There's a phrase, stay connected no matter what. And we see this in the workplace a lot too. All of our stuff in relationship comes up in the workspace. So I started writing a book about this a long time ago. We're so triggered in relationship that we come together in teams, or the way that we view the authority figures in our organizations, all comes back to like some deep-seated emotional traumas that we had when we were younger. So we're working through this while we're trying to write code, and we're trying to get a project done, and we're trying to function in these organizations. And it's really difficult. So there's a need to step up in your own being, to say, I'm committed to my growth. I'm committed to stay connected to myself, and to stop blaming other people, and really see how am I showing up in this moment, and where am I creating damage? And then in relationship with other people, just honoring the space that you're in and the connection that you have with somebody else, and in developing relationship and psychological safety, so you can have those sometimes difficult conversations. But if you can have a difficult conversation with somebody in the workplace, it makes it that much easier to work together.
If there is the space to do that, of course. But yeah, I definitely, well, and I would say not just in the workplace. Of course, you need to have it like you just shown in a couple or with the children. And like what you said, Audrey, earlier on in your life, that there might have been very difficult for you to do that when you were younger. For whatever reason there was, that doesn't matter. There's no blaming here. We just, yeah, it's hard. And working on ourselves, indeed, having is a lot about having difficult conversations, either with ourselves or someone else, showing us like maybe there still is some work to do, one way or another. Thank you for sharing all of that. That's really wonderful. I want to go to the next question, if it's showing up. Yes. What do you consider your biggest achievement? Maybe as a duo, but also as separately. Is there anything that you consider an achievement? Because that's also a loaded word, of course.
I would say my children. My children are my biggest achievement. And I don't know. I think our children together in what we're growing into as a family is a huge achievement. Yeah, we have kids separate. So yeah.
So that's indeed the new family together is not an easy one. I keep joking sometimes with my partner. Just having kids with one partner and making that work is already hard. So if you would have a new family, that's even like twice or triple the hardest, because you both have ex-partners, I assume, that are in the mix as well. So that's even harder.
That's a huge achievement too, to have peace and harmony. Yeah.
Yes. So that's
yeah. Actually, I'll go with the word peace. I think really the greatest achievement we have is not the success people get. We're talking about our work, our work helping people evolve as human beings, as well as create success through that, right? But the human evolution dynamic and having people change their lives, like fundamentally, like the email I get about we just got one today. Like I mean,
so
this is like I'll just read what it says. It says, "Hey, just wanted to reach out. This person describes 8 major things going on in their life that are highly disturbing, problematic, people dying, major trauma. And they go, through it all, my frame of mind has been clear, non-judgmental, and I've been able to keep smiling and enjoying what I'm doing. I say this because I can't possibly imagine that this would have been the case 12 months ago. The learnings from emotional science, my post-Cal state of mind, have helped me show up authentically and the best I can be given everything going on around me." And this is not this is like a routine thing. Mm-hmm. Someone says, I had a fight with my wife and I used emotional science and I calmed down and I restored harmony to my family. It's just like we get these things. So giving people, this is the achievement, is giving people the sense of peace, the sense of peace from which they can totally transform their personal relationships, their work relationships, and show up as a completely different human being.
And like you said, you can bring that because you have found harmony yourself, both as a person, as a couple, I would say, or as a family.
And it was also it's saturating into our family. That's the thing. It's like we've been working out in the world and doing the training and developing curriculum in this framework, and we've been living the work ourselves, but we weren't mandating our family show up in any different way. And for our ex-partners, the relationships have changed. The relationships with our kids have changed. Michael's kids are a little bit older than mine, and they're just blossoming and blooming into such incredible young adults. And I'm just so I'm just blown away by the possibilities that we get to see. But we've been hearing it from the people that take our courses or read our work, and then to actually have it saturating and be really visible in our personal relationships. And I think that that's really what it's about. It's about how to, the improvements that you're doing for yourself. The metric for that is what is happening in the environment around you, right? How is the environment around you shifting and evolving and changing, becoming peaceful and harmonious? And that's how you know that whatever you're doing is effective in your growth.
Yeah, that sounds really wonderful, because indeed, well, Audrey, you were sharing before about how difficult it was for you as a teenager, I would say, and now you're talking about, well, I think, Michael, you have like they're teenagers or young adults, huh? So that's
Young adults now.
Yeah.
yeah. So that's already beyond that age that Audrey was talking about before. But so you have already that influence in one generation, I would say. Because typically it takes a lot more generations to heal certain things. So that's a wonderful story to share there.
The other thing that I'd say is a good runner-up for our shared achievement is what you see behind us, which is this self framework, which was an emergent happening. We weren't intending, but we realized that, wait a second, we actually have a specific set of teachings, specific technology for personal evolution, organizational evolution, and it's really something extraordinary and different than really anything that we've really encountered in either of our broad professional careers. So, and it was a happening.
Oh my God,
it was a happening.
The greatest happening ever.
3 weeks before our book deadline with a publisher, like, we cannot move this date, and it's like, you know what? Someone was getting the feedback is like, there's no consistent message to tie this all together, and boom, in 3 weeks, the whole thing was born, the whole framework, because it was all there. It just didn't have a name. It had a name.
And then it had a
Shift
name.
Forward Evolution Leadership Framework, self, because it's all our work is about self-evolution.
Wait, and we were screaming when we saw the acronym. We were like,
oh my God,
how is this even possible?
Yeah, and then the whole book got rewritten. Leading Beyond Change got rewritten in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that was
wow.
3 weeks to rewrite.
Just writing a book in 3 weeks is almost impossible, and then you rewrite the book with everything there. Yeah, but like you say, once everything is there, yeah, once things start clicking, I can imagine that it's
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun when that happens.
Yeah. So that's magic. And that's not like, oh, we thought it, we're so smart. It's just a happening. We're just, open to the universe, and the universe, when we're open to it, will give. So.
Well, you're still smart because you acknowledged that had that information up front, and then you were ready. But no, both of you just. But yeah, you have, like what Michael said, you have to be open for it, and that's also a kind of smartness. It might not be IQ or EQ or whatever, but it's, I don't know what kind of Q it is, but it still is a kind of smartness.
It's actually SQ, because SQ, spiritual quotient, because I don't think about things. I just connect to the quantum field and download the information, because it's much faster than trying to think. So, yeah.
Interesting that you call it SQ, because when I hear people talk about SQ, it usually means something like a sexual connotation with it. So that's when you say SQ, you mean spiritual, which is a different kind of thing, of course.
Well,
okay.
Because sexual energy is spiritual energy, so it's just misdirected and kind of lost in our society. But that's a whole other That's a whole other topic, though.
That's for the after talk, maybe, or for another talk. But I definitely agree there is a connection there. Okay, let's move on. No, is this already this question? Wait, am I seeing this? No, we moved to the achievements. So, do you have any personal agility tip to share? Anything that we're coming from the agile space, but you've already moved so much on. But is there anything, the way you work? And I think you shared already some of that, but is there more that you would share?
I love a Kanban board, and I love Kanban tokens. I forget everything. I don't write it on a sticky note. So for me, coming into the agile space as a newbie, I really loved the ability to be able to see what I need to get done, and then to move, like I gamify everything. So that's what I love about it.
So you talk about the visualization and the gamification. So it's both that attracts you to the board.
Colored stickies and all, Yeah, I really love it. I love the imagination. I love when we do influence maps, and when we're going to create something new, how we work together. I just think like that way of being agile, like having the ability to have the mindset where it provides a space for something new and interesting, and the way we work together is it's just creative and fun. It just took work into a different level for me. Yeah.
And that's interesting to hear that, because you come from a completely non-IT part where you learned that from working with Michael, I assume. Yeah. Sorry, Michael, I interrupted you.
Yeah. Like even my daughter is intuitively being agile with her, creating her schedule at university and creating schedules for other people, and she's color coding, and she's putting it into a process that you can see the work and it becomes creative and fun. So it's just intuitively, I think it's our nature. I believe it's our nature. We're coming back to
she picked that up from seeing both of you working that way, or just really, like you say, it's in our nature?
It was just really intuitive, and I was like, oh, like you're it looks like you're making a Kanban board and you're doing things in an agile way, just naturally. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so for mine, I'd pick like the first part of the Agile Manifesto, which is a commitment to learning. And probably my knob goes to 11. So it's like there's a phrase from Good to Great, which is, the best people, the best leaders, the best organizations rinse their cottage cheese, which means like, this is what marathon runners do. They rinse their cottage cheese to get all the fat out. So they just have the protein and so on. But the idea here is that every day, so the tip is, so basically the idea is be excellent every day. Like look at what you're doing, the tools you're using, how you do things. If you can change something, if you can automate something, if you can learn a new tool that will save you 30 seconds every day, you'll get the benefit for the rest of your life. So take the time, set your environment up, set up those mail filter rules, do whatever you need to do to make your environment go fast, right? That's why I love having a Mac, because the delay time, the response time is so low, it just goes very, very fast, right? And I use the thing to find the productivity tools, the thing. So commit yourself to, each day, each week, making things a little bit better. Because you make things 1% better every week, it's going to be an amazing year.
Yeah, I really like that. That's it's something I see myself doing a lot since many years. Like, okay, look, every time you see something, okay, wait a minute, I can change that. And yeah, I've noticed that sometimes people around me get annoyed because they say, why are you never happy with what's happening? And for me, it's not about there is the discussion. I had that recently with Jason Jip. He said, it's not about not being happy, and that's people have seeing the difference between contentment and happy. But it's really about, like you say, improving it and making our own lives better each and every day, which helps me in the long run much more than just that annoying 1 or 5 minutes that I do every day. Because, like you say, it pays off for the rest of the year and the rest of your life. With every tool that we're doing. So that's a very good tip, though, from both of you. And in that sense, I really like this interview, because I doubled just the tips for everyone. I just have 2 people in the same space. We have a lot more there. So I should actually do this much more with 2 people, and maybe 3 and 4. Okay, let's not exaggerate.
Well, what happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like to do these kind of experiments. I want to go to the next one, and I think we've been into the pandemic living a much more remote work, but I think, well, Michael, I think you worked remote before as well. I think I'm not sure, but is there anything you've learned about remote work the last year or the years before?
So first of all, remote working. I've been collaborating with other agile people all over the globe for more than a decade. So like the world we're in now with COVID, it's like, yeah, I've been living here for the last decade. Like, big deal. Like, why are people getting, anyway, so not new to me, but I'll give one very specific tip. Use the mute button. And what I mean by that is, like, if it's not your turn to talk, create a space for other people to talk. And that's how, as leaders, we build leaders around us. So as a leader or a facilitator, we pose a question, we hit the mute button, because it'll prevent us and our ego from talking. Like, we'll have to actually go on mute and then interrupt somebody. So it's a really, really powerful technology in your meetings with other people. Set up the question and set up the constraint of having everyone share, and give people a space, as well as boundaries of how much space, 30 seconds or whatever it is, and use the mute button to really make sure you shut up and listen.
Yeah, especially as a leader, I think that's a very good idea. I had a meeting just last week where a manager said a lot of things, and then he said, and by the way, I don't hear anybody else. And my co-facilitator and me, we looked at each other and we looked like, yeah, how would that come? Because he couldn't shut up, and now he was surprised he didn't hear anything from anybody else. It was like, yeah, maybe if you stop talking, then you could hear what people are trying to say. So it's an interesting one.
I think for me, I have always done remote healing, and people were like, well, you know, I had a client in Lebanon, and she was like, well, I'm in Lebanon. And I said, well, that it doesn't matter. In here, we ran some experiments so she can actually feel what was happening, even though I wasn't in the room with her. So we are remote now. We don't know how that's going to change, if we're going to come back to in person or not. I love being in person with people. And I think that it's also part of our nature as human beings to be connected together. But what we forget is that there is no time and space between people. And we don't understand that we can have the same intimacy. We can read you, we can feel you, we can connect together as to people or a community or a group of people, no matter what. And I think that we're so distracted, or we're busy thinking, you're in Belgium and we're here. I feel very connected to you. I can feel you. I can feel your heart. I can feel your curiosity. I can feel your interest in who we are as people. And so, that's really what it is. It doesn't matter if we're in person or not in person. And we got to get out of our own way of believing that we're limited human beings, and see something different, and take the opportunity to connect to people no matter what is going on. It's really important.
I like the way you phrase it, because indeed it's about a big bandwidth communication. And of course, if we're in person, it's much easier. And if things go wrong, it's much easier because we're so used to creating that connection. But like you said in the beginning, Audree, even you did in person as a teenager, you were not connected, or you were in a strange place yourself, and that kept you from connecting to your parents, which first you needed to heal that part. And I think we see the same thing now in a remote way, that we need to kind of learn how to do that. Like, you had to learn how to connect to yourself and to love yourself before you could connect to other people. Now we need to learn as a world to connect to people in a remote way, and some of us are much better. And I thank you for sharing that you feel connected, because I feel the same thing. It really feels like this is a way how I can connect to people. And it's different. Of course, it's different. It's well, harder is maybe the wrong word, but it's definitely asks a lot more preparation, and you need to pay much more attention to other different kind of things. But it is possible, and I'm glad that you mentioned that you feel connected. So it feels the same way to me.
Thank you. We can't let our circumstances
I
take
don't
us out.
hear you anymore. I'm not sure what happened there.
Test 1, 2, 3.
I heard a noise at
Test
some
1.
point, a cling, and then
Still working on
now
our
I no longer hear you. And I hope it's
test 1, 2,
is it
3.
on my side.
Yeah. Our microphone is
You
working.
still hear me, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Let me check. I'm going to start. We're going to cut this out of the video. Just make sure that I don't. Could you keep talking? Could you talk again?
Test
Yeah,
1.
test.
Okay, it was on my side. I think my phone. Let me turn off my phone. So that's definitely on my side. So that probably means that recording was still okay. Okay, let's continue, and I'll cut it out. So let's do it.
So what I was saying, which is really funny because we got disconnected,
Yeah.
is well, we allow our circumstances around us to take us out, to frustrate us, to think that get frustrated, get angry, and really use that as a distraction to take us out. I remember I was in a leadership course, and they purposely had somebody walk into the room and make a lot of noise just to see who turned around. And the teaching was whoever's going to take themselves out and be distracted is not going to have the ability to really improve their lives. And so we have to, we're not taught these things. And so when we get distracted, when we allow circumstances to take us out, how can we be open to the improvement? How can we be open to the connection? Right now we're forced. Some of us are still being forced in seclusion or isolation, and then we get frustrated by it, and our minds are going rah, 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 instead of saying, how can I overcome this circumstance? How can I stay connected to the people that I love? How can I do this work, show up for this team, for this organization, no matter what is going on? And really, how can I show up for my family? So it's really up to us to decide if we're going to want to show up and make the connections and be open to possibilities. Yeah. And
I feel that a lot, because I see a lot of difference between teenagers who are used to technology and keep connected, for example, who feel much more. Of course, there is a part that if elder people are not used to technology, it's different. But I still see a lot of people of our age that feel frustrated, where I think, like, you can just call people. And I've noticed that, yes, I visited my parents a lot less the last 2 years for obvious reasons, but I've called them way more. And I have to admit, the last few months it's been a little bit less, but the first few months I think I called them much more, like double or triple, or I don't know how many much more times, because I wanted to feel much more connected. Yeah. And in that sense, I was probably more connected in the beginning of the pandemic with my parents than the 2 months before, in a sense, because it's like, hey, there is something happening, and it's important to stay connected. I want to tell you, I loved your example that you gave on the course, because when you say somebody's walking in to get you distracted, I have to also the example that I've noticed is that the opposite. In my father-in-law is working from home, or has been working from home as much, and I've noticed that, for example, my My partner is a lot better is very good at when I was working at home in the beginning of our relationship. Now I'm talking back years ago, that she was really good in distracting me because she was just used to getting attention from a parent that was working at home, and that's and at first it annoyed me, but the more I look at it, it's like, okay, it's also a way to keep connected and to get attention and learn from that, because it works in both directions. Like you say, you could get distracted from the course, but maybe you got attached, or you pay attention to whoever asks the question, and that's the real importance for me. What is the most important one? Is that the child that is asking for attention, or is that the course that is there? And it depends on the situation. If it's a child that just yangles because it wants attention, or is it because there is a real problem? That's a different kind of attention, of course. I think that's
yeah, that is, it's very different. Yeah, normally you just pay attention to the child.
Well, yeah, when I was explaining it, I was thinking about, I remember that when I was, I don't know, 10, 12, whatever, I was jumping up and down on, where was I? I was in the living room. I was jumping up and down. My mother was on a phone call with somebody. It was very important, some international call. And I jumped up and down and I fell and I hurt my head and I was actually bleeding. And all of a sudden the phone call was over and it was like, yeah, why? Because because I had a problem. That problem was more important than whatever phone call there was. And I only understood that years later, that I was kind of annoying probably for the parent asking attention. But when there's a real problem, you get the attention. Not when you do annoying stuff, but when there is a real problem, all of a sudden there is something. Just for the record, I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't fall on purpose to get the attention, but it's a nice example of what you're sharing. Thank you for sharing all of these.
It's really been amazing talking with you. Yeah.
I want to. I'm looking for that next question because I find it. We can keep talking. I think it's interesting. Just like last time that we met in person, I would say. And that's what's a book that you read? And I typically say last book, but it doesn't have to be a last book. Is there a book that, I don't know if both of you read it, one of you read it, want to share about? Maybe you have both the book.
We both read it, and it's called, I'll just remember, Ironclad Brand.
That's the one, right?
Yes.
Ironclad Brand, yes.
Yeah. That's been our, that's the last book we read.
Yeah.
And
Okay, why is it so important? Actually, we got it for our whole team. We had our whole team read it. And what I realized, is like, wait a second, when I look at the root cause of every single challenge we've been having as an organization, they can all be traced back to what is our brand strategy. And I said, well, look, team, our brand strategy between 0, nothing, and 10, amazing, we're at about a 0, maybe a 1 if we're generous. We fail on each of these 9 criteria. We are so confused and distracted and diffuse about who we are and what we do, that to have us come up with our kind of go-to-market plan, how we're going to approach the world, how we're going to have people connect with us, we really need to do our homework here. And so for me, it was like, hey, call to action.
I think what we realized too is that our work is really important in the world, and we've been doing it a disservice. So we have been lucky, we have been blessed, we have been, in the agile space, we've been traveling around the world. We have amazing partners.
Incredibly successful despite our own incompetence.
Because we don't market. We do not market.
We do not sell.
We're horrible at business, but we believe in our work. We use it for ourselves, for our own personal development. The people that we've trained have had phenomenal success. I mean, one of the things about our people is they get promoted. And so that has been we have We have incredible testimonials. We've been so lucky, but we don't know what to do with all of this. And so,
or you can actually explain who we are and what we do.
yeah.
So anyway, the book is really
had to.
amazing because it's like, well, hey, it's really simple. Like, know who you are. What is your why? Who is your customer? Like, I'll tell you what the key points of the book are. Who is your customer? Like, who really is your customer? It's not everyone. Like, who really precisely, exactly is your customer? And why do you matter to them? Why do you matter to them? And what is the proof that you give them whatever your promise is that your company has? And I guess the other one really pro tip I'll give to people here is it's finding what is your unique differentiator. What is the thing you do that nobody else does? It's not about, oh, we're better at this, because better, that won't get you anywhere. But what is the thing that's unique and special and different? So this is, been extraordinarily helpful for us as an organization. I'd say we're now cruising at about a 5 out of 10 on brand strategy, maybe a 4, or somewhere around that range. And it's like, oh my God, it feels so much better. Oh.
But it's interesting that you say that, because you are, well, I would say you were already, I don't know when you read the book, so I don't know at what point that was.
2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right. So that definitely makes the point that I want to make, is that you are already successful when you're at a 0 or a 1, without defining your differentiator and everything you say, which is, I find interesting, because what does that mean about the book? It will make you, well, the interesting part will be in a year or two to know what the book has made from difference. But it's really interesting to see where you're coming from, and already, because I like what you said earlier on. The people following your course are successful, they love you, and maybe you don't need to sell it, because, like you say, you don't sell it. It's also a selling point. The fact that you don't sell it, but people sell it for you, tells me a lot about the book. Your book, it's been with me for a while, and it's interesting to see how many people are reading it and talking about it. So that tells a lot about the book on its own, because I'm, like I said earlier on, I hear it from multiple parts, which in a sense sells the book itself, or you as an organization, or I don't know how to call it.
Yeah, we've always been about organic growth and not pushing anybody with it's just invitation. And if you love the work, I mean, the book itself that we wrote, Leading Beyond Change, is really, how can we help people be successful? So you can read the book and do your own work and be really successful, or you can come take a course, or you can come take a course and read the book. But I think the whole thing is that we just want to help people be successful. And that's the love and the passion that we have, and the inspiration to work.
Yeah, I'll tell you why the brand strategy is not about selling. It's really, honestly, as like we're holding this huge energy that's coming out to the planet, and this very important information, and we're not doing it a disservice. We're actually doing it a disservice. And that's why brand strategy is so important, because it's being really clear about who we are, who is our customer, why are we doing this, and how do we get our work out to the world. So, yes, we've been successful up to a point, but in terms of serving our overall mission of our organization to really help change what's happening with the planet, we're not even under the starting blocks, honestly. But
I understand that, and I'm not. You don't hear me say that it's wrong. Definitely not. But it's interesting to see what happened already with the book and everything you did around it without having that strategy, and that's an interesting thing. And I recognize some of that, what you're saying about, for some of the things that I've been doing in my community, sometimes you need to be, I recently, a few years ago, I was coaching a product owner, and he also said, but I don't need to make publicity of my work. My clients have to see the work that I'm doing. Like, and no. I mean, in a sense that when your work is good, people will notice, but you shouldn't be worried about making publicity for whatever you're doing, because you're doing it a disservice. And I've noticed that, for example, you were both of you were helped out with an article in my latest book, Tips from the Agile Trenches. And for me, it was a hard time to make publicity for it. And then at the same time, I saw myself making publicity for my daughter's book without every time there was an opportunity, I was just talking about it and throwing it around. And for my own book, I wasn't doing it. And that's like, yeah, it's very really strange to understand what you're saying there. It's
Yeah.
somehow we do a lot ourselves a disservice by not thinking hard enough about everything around that. So that's a wonderful thing to share. Thank you.
Ironclad Brand is a really amazing book, really beautiful work. We've been grateful to have it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I want to go to, for me, the most interesting question is that what's a question that you think that I should also ask both of you, and of course the answer there.
I think we talked about such deep, we had such deep, vulnerable shares that I don't think it's so much about the question. It's just about your curiosity and how open you are that made me comfortable to share things that I normally wouldn't share. So I think that was the one question. What do they don't know about you that has impacted you?
Yeah. So I'd say the one thing. Yeah. So I think the question that could be asked is really the question you asked, which is like, what's the one thing that's here that we haven't spoken about that's important, right? And I would say this is that really essentially we're all living in the matrix. And there is a world beyond that we don't see because we've been conditioned into 3D Western society. And that what we're speaking about, shifting consciousness, is not a little bit of psychology here or there. It's actually fundamentally about discovering the truth of who we are as beings of consciousness and what that really means to exist on this planet and be here. And the happy circumstances, that's really what this whole thing is about, of evolving ourselves, and is directly materially related to how do I be more successful in creating what I want. And that's the huge discovery, is that evolving our consciousness and discovering the truth of who we are on planet Earth is identical to understanding how does reality work around me and how do I make the reality show up that I want. So it's really about, our work is about how do we help people change their reality. So that's probably the deeper nugget of really what we're doing that we haven't really touched on.
So the spiritual version of there is no spoon, if I say it that way.
Well, I don't really like the word spiritual. Like that's not what it's about. I'm talking about the mechanics of creation. Like I'm a scientist, I'm an engineer. None of this woo-woo bullshit, right? Just very, very practically, if you use your body as to experience what reality is, you can learn how to do that, and it's not what you think it is. And we can't tell people that because they're saying, well, how do I understand that with my mind? It's like, well, your mind is the problem. We're talking about going beyond the mind to experience the deeper fabric of reality that we can actually use our bodies to experience. So that's the whole thing. It's like, for most people listening to this, maybe even for you, there's a world that exists that's far greater. It's like talking about people with the Force. Use the Force, Luke. I mean, like, literally, it exists. It's there. This is where we teach people how to use, to understand what are we doing to flow with the reality of the universe and use the quantum field to actually manifest what we want. That's really what we give people. And it's hard to describe.
So if you wouldn't use the word spiritual, is there another word that would fit better for you?
Quantum field, the mechanics of creation. Like, creation has a set of functioning. It's a system. It's beyond our human comprehension, but we can learn parts of it and how to hack into it to create the outcomes that we want.
Wow. I probably need to think a lot about that to make sure that I understand.
Don't think about it. Don't think about it. There's nothing you can do. No.
Yeah,
let me experience that. What would it mean for me to experience this? And where am I experiencing it right now in my life, but I'm not noticing?
So I have a saying, The mind tried to be God, and in doing so, forgot that it was.
Wow. That is. I'm trying to come up with the right word, but I don't know what's the right word. But yeah, it's a powerful message. Thank you for sharing that. That's again a deep thought. That's
Well,
yeah.
you were going to go to the Matrix
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
I know. Over there.
Well, yeah, but that's what I like about this is what I like every time when I meet both of you is that you share the same space, but you have different kind of metaphors to bring into that. That makes me think in different kind of ways. Well, again, word thinking. I shouldn't use that word.
Masculine and the feminine, the structure and the free flow and the intuition. It's because we're actually in our work this marriage of the masculine and the feminine, which is this theme that runs through all of creation. What do you call it, yin and yang, or blah blah blah, or
Positive, negative.
Yeah, it's all duality is just the nature of the functioning and structure of creation. So it's actually that's what we're actually just returning people of how do we return to harmony.
Yeah, but what I wanted to add to that is that I'm attracted to both parts of it, and definitely, of course, I'm a man, so there is that part that I'm much more used to when I was raised, I would say, but I'm trying to learn a lot more from that other side. But it's very interesting to then have the conversation with both of you, to have both of these things to be there. So thank you for sharing that and having that conversation. I have no idea, but I think we've been talking for quite a while. So I want to go to, but of course, this is two people. So this is why that we said it when we started out, it will take probably a little bit longer. I want to go to that last question is that who do you think I should ask next? That who do you want me to invite next?
You said Peter.
Yeah, so we had two ideas that came up. One is some is more conventional in the agile space, and that would be Olaf Lewitz, who I've collaborated with for a long time. Really, just a beautiful human being. So his main name may have already come up for you. So we'll give you like the other name that came up for us, which is somebody who really embodies in terms of choosing to live a different way of functioning on this planet. That just started as a Scrum Master and realized, wait a minute, there's something very different going on here that is possible for us as human beings. And his name is Peter Zilka. So
that's Peter, right?
Yeah.
Except his hair is longer now.
Yeah, well, it keeps on changing length, but anyway. All right. Yeah, so that's Peter.
That's how people are these days.
Yeah. So just incredible. I mean, he was going through our second level leadership program that we offer in the agile space. And we saw the peer feedback that somebody had given. They gave somebody a 10 out of 10 on the scoring, and we went and said, like, what? How did someone get a 10 out of 10? We look at it and we go, oh my God! He wrote something called "The Letter to My Ego." The letter to my ego. That was really just this profound awareness of the deeper teaching of the work of how his ego was actually running the show, and how he had a choice at every moment to show up as his best self or be taken out.
So that sounds really like a very interesting person to talk to. So thank you for inviting. And I will. Well, Olaf is indeed also on my list, but I haven't invited him. Olaf is like one of these people that that someone will invite at some point. So I just wait until somebody invites them. So I'm sorry. I'll definitely invite him later on as well. Let me have a sip as well. So thank you very much for both of you for your time. Meanwhile, it's already dark in Belgium. And I think you on your side today is, the sun is still there, I think. Still interesting to be there the rest of the day. And like you said, you were going to leave where you are. So I would say, I hope you can still enjoy the last part of the moments that you're in the place where you are right now.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. Like you say, you do a lot of that remotely, but I still hope we can meet again and hug again in person.
Looking forward to it.
I don't know when, but we'll definitely meet again. So thank you very much for your time. And oh no, I forgot. What's the best place for people to actually reach out to you?
Probably the best place is through our website, shift314.com, or they can connect with us on LinkedIn. Either one's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll definitely. I forgot in the preparation.
Our website's good because it's got lots of content. Like it's really a content beast. We've got a free online decision cards tool. We've got an incredible number of very, very insightful, laser precise blog posts. There's free book sample. There's so much there. And, agile transformation keys. Like there's just lots of stuff there that's available for people.
And
who
then
just
you
want to
can
get started.
email. You can get our email addresses off of the website. So shift.
So I'll definitely. I forgot to add the URL in the preparation, but I'll definitely add it into the show notes that people can contact you. So thank you very much for your time, and bye bye.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.